Hi, Tom Trento here with another edition of our special coverage of the war in Israel, Operation Protective Edge, an inside look, destroy Hamas. Right now, it's the end of July 2014, and people who never knew anything about this Hamas thing are starting to contact us, starting to kind of become awakened on who is or what is the Hamas? Where are they? What do they want? Well, we know it personally because just a few days ago, one of our cameramen was attacked on a corner in Miami, and many of you have seen that footage. We're going to bring you regular updates on that. As of right now, we're getting responses from all over the world on this attack, this assault, people wanting to help us. We're looking into civil rights violations, criminal violations, and we'll give you updates as they come. But on today's special segment, we have two of the world's top experts on Islamic Jihad, on the Islamic resistance movement, the Hamas. We're going to bring you one from Israel, one from the United States. Fascinating show. From Israel, we have Dr. Mordechai Kedar. From the United States, we have Dr. Andrew Bostom. Let's go first to Israel to talk to Dr. Mordechai Kedar. He has spent 25 years with the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, working in the area of military intelligence. He is an expert on the Arab mind, the Arab language, Arab culture, and he brings to our viewers a unique insight into the way the Arab jihad mind thinks. He is one of the few scholars who appears regularly on Arab TV fighting the Islamic jihadis there, standing up for the West, for Israel. So let's go now to Dr. Mordechai Kedar. So Dr. Kadar, just recently, CBS News ran an extended interview with Khalid, Mashal, the head of Hamas in Qatar, of all places. And did you have an opportunity to look at part of that interview?
Yes, I saw it.
And one of the points that Khalid Mashal said was that, that this war has brought to the whole world's attention that the siege, the Israeli siege against Gaza, the occupation against Gaza, must end. Now, if he led part of this interview with that statement, with you, your analytical background on military issues and counterterrorism issues and geopolitical issues, what is Meshaal saying to the free world, to the West, and what is he saying to the Arab world when he says, now the siege really must end? What does that mean?
Well, it sounds to Western ears as a very logical, very reasonable demand to stop the siege on a city or an area. Why should there be a siege? So it sounds nice, this demand, and many in the West will go forward in order to release the siege on Gaza. However, the demand to release the siege comes from a totally different place. In Gaza, they accumulated thousands of missiles in order to use them and to launch them and to kill as many Israelis as they can. But fortunately, we developed this Iron Dome system, which actually thwarted all those missiles, and unfortunately, two Israelis were killed after more than 2,000 missiles were launched to the Israeli cities. So definitely all those stockpiles of missiles turned to be something which is totally insignificant when it comes to their ability to threaten Israel. Now they need a new system, a new way how to launch missiles. Iran produced something like a cruise missile, which takes totally different route than the missiles which they have, not a ballistic route, but much more flat. And the Iron Dome cannot deal with these cruise missiles which they want to bring from Iran. They want to release the siege so the Iranians can bring by ships those missiles to Gaza so they can target us without the intervention of the Iron Dome system. Now, they could have, in the past, they could have smuggled those missiles from Sinai through tunnels, thousands of tunnels which they had between the Sinai, actually Egypt, and Gaza. But since the Egyptian army took care of all those tunnels and blocked them all up, so now only the sea is the way which they can bring those Iranian missiles to Gaza. So this is why he demands to release the siege. This is the main reason. Another good reason is that, as you know,
let's hang on 1 second. Let me pursue that. And I want you, with your expertise living over there in Israel also, to help the ill-informed Westerner who may be in a position of influence to understand that the words that come out of Mashal, the head of Hamas, may not be what he means to the Arab world and to his Gaza fighters and to the Palestinians. He is saying, and Charlie Rose asked him in the interview, can you live with the Jews? Is it possible to coexist with the Jews? And Khalid said, well, yeah, we can live with the Jews, we can coexist, but not as occupiers. So, and again, what you said at the beginning, it seems reasonable that people don't want to be occupied, but there seems to be, what is the genesis, or what is the reason for this occupation or siege, or whatever you would call it, that Israel's doing to contain the military destructive power of the Hamas?
Okay, so there is some kind of deception in what he's saying. When he says occupation, the Western ear hears the occupation of 1967 of what was then the Sinai Desert and the West Bank, with the so-called West Bank, which we call Judea and Samaria, and the Golan Heights. This is what occupation usually is meaning today. But in his vocabulary, occupation is the whole space of Israel since 1948. Means when he says that the Israeli occupation should be removed, he means that the whole state of Israel should be removed. And living with Jews means that we Jews can live under the Islamic rule as dhimmis, means second class citizens, those who live under the aegis of Islam, obeying Islam with actually almost no right, because we are subjugated to Islam. And this is what he means by we can live with Jews.
Okay, this is an important point. Right now we have going on in Mosul in Iraq, the former ISIS, now the Islamic State, has thrown all the Christians out of Mosul, or given them an opportunity either to convert, to be subservient, let Islam rule supreme, to be a second-class citizen, or to leave. Are you saying that the same sort of theocratic geopolitical template would be applied over the state of Israel if Mashal got his way?
Exactly the same thing. Khalid Mashal uses the same sources, the same verses, the same interpretations, the same hadith, means oral tradition quotations, just like Al-Qaeda, just like the Islamic State, just like the jihadists in Sinai, in Libya, in Yemen. All of them use the same texts. The only difference between these organizations is the locations. The Islamic State is still in Syria and Iraq, have a very good aspirations to spread their hegemony over the whole Islamic world. The Muslim Brotherhood are the same. Maybe they might use different methods, not so lethal as we saw in Iraq, but the ultimate goal is the same, exactly the same. Political, there is no, look, Tom, there is no moderate Islam and radical Islam. Since there is no moderate Quran and radical Quran, there are moderate Muslims versus radical Muslims. and they are radical Muslims. The body of the texts and the ideas and the laws of Islam is the same to everybody. Maybe you can find difference between Sunni Islam and Shia Islam, and there are 4 schools in the Sunni Islam, but the difference is not between radical Islam and moderate Islam, is between radical people and moderate people. And there are many Muslims who are moderate, who wouldn't impose anything on others, but they have no power and they have no ability to influence those who are radical and would shoot anybody who doesn't agree with them. And this is the problem with the radical people who use Islam in order to subjugate Jews, Christians, and other Muslims who do not share the same ideas as they do.
So, Dr. Kadar, since your analysis that the Hamas is committed to their doctrine, not just the covenant, but their theological Islamic doctrines for the ultimate obliteration of Jews in Israel, since that's true, what is your view as to what Israel should do over the next 30, 60, 90 days with this war against Hamas?
Well, we plan to be here beyond 90 days. So we have to put our strategy together now. The strategy vis-a-vis Hamas should be deterrence, because deterrence is the only thing which can work in the Middle East. And what I mean by deterrence is a credible threat which will be constantly above the connection between the heads and the shoulders of the heads of Hamas. This is the most important thing for them, and Israel should be in an ability to target this connection at any given time when they violate the agreements which we might reach with them. And this is the only thing which works in this unfortunate region named the Middle East. So this is the only way which Israel can survive in this region, by showing to its neighbors that for their own good, they should leave Israel alone. We don't want them, and we don't need them as buyers of our products. Anyway, they don't have the money to do this. And in the Middle East, as you know, peace is given only to the invincible. And this is the only peace which Israel can expect to have in this region. However, I must say that according to the Islamic tradition, there is a way to give a temporary peace to the infidels when the Muslims cannot defeat them. This is based on the precedent of the Hudaybiyah peace, which the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, gave to the infidels of Mecca, a peace for 9 years, 9 days, and 9 years, 9 months, and 9 days. But he violated this peace after 2 years when he saw that the infidels of Mecca went to sleep on God. So this is what the precedent teaches them, that as long as they cannot defeat the infidels, they can give them peace, temporary peace. And they are allowed to violate this peace when Allah gives them the opportunity and the ability to breach this agreement. So we can reach an agreement with our neighbors, but we have to keep a very open eye in order to make sure that they keep the peace with us based on deterrence, because there is no other thing which can preserve this peace between Israel and its neighbors.
And as one of the top analysts operating in Israel on these geopolitical and military affairs, those are words well worth heeded by not only your administration, but administrations all around. One last thing, and we got 30 seconds left. We have Khalid, Mashal out in Qatar, cheering on his fighters to go fight these Zionist pigs and all of that, while he's sipping nice drinks in the protection of beautiful hotels. Take 30 seconds and share a short message in Arabic, if you will, with the Palestinians regarding this disconnect, their leader enjoying the life of comfort and them, being on the front lines of a war. Just take 30 seconds and share that in the language, if you will.
I will do it in both Arabic and English, with your permission.
Okay.
Khalid Mashal ya Azizi. Oh, my dear Khalid Mashal. أنت في الفنادق وشعبك في غزة في الخنادق. You are in the hotels and they are in the ditches, in the dirt. ارحمهم. ارحم غزة. ارحم شعب غزة. ارحم الفلسطينيين. Have mercy on them. Have mercy on Gaza. Have mercy on the Palestinians. And this is now Eid, means festive, the Eid al-Fitr. أعطيهم العيد فرحة العيد أعد لهم فرحة العيد بعد أن دمرت قطاع غزة وأهل غزة في هذه الحرب الضروس التي أعلنتها على الإسرائيليين. Please give them some way to live in Gaza. Bring them some hope in this festive, and bring them some prosperity which they deserve. And I think that if he gets this message, maybe he will start thinking in terms of a construction, of education, of prosperity, rather than destruction to destroy Israel, which will bring about the destruction of Gaza, no doubt.
Okay, Dr. Kadar, thank you very, very much. We will be back to you in the future to get your thoughts and insights on this complex situation, but we all agree Hamas needs to be destroyed. Thank you very much. Take care now.
Thank you.
I tell you, I can listen to Dr. Mordechai Kedar forever. He's got tremendous insight. In fact, on our last fact-finding mission to Israel last October, he was one of our featured speakers in the evening. And in this trip coming up in November, and we are going, folks, war or no war, sign up. We're going to Israel. We will be meeting with Dr. Kadar there also. It's just amazing to have an expert like that explaining all of this stuff. Well, we also have our own homegrown experts here. Let's go to the northeast of the United States to Dr. Andy Bostom. He is a good friend of our show, has been on many times. Andy Bostom is a physician, a medical doctor. He's taken his research skills, and in 2005, he wrote The Legacy of Jihad, a little pamphlet, 700-page book, folks, analyzing the legacy of Islamic Jihad. Then in 2008, he wrote The Legacy of Islamic Anti-Semitism, over 700 pages. He's an individual who understands the Arabic issues, the jihad issues, the theocratic issues, the geopolitical issues. Dr. Andy Bostom. CBS recently interviewed the head of Hamas, Khalid, Mashal, and Charlie Rose asked him a bunch of interesting questions. Basically, Mashal said that this war in Gaza right now indicates to the whole world that it's time for Israel to stop the siege, the occupation of Gaza. Help us understand what Mashal is saying to the Arabs and what he's saying to the West by statements like that.
Well, yeah, it's very simple. On March 23rd of this year, which marked the 10th anniversary of the assassination of the so-called spiritual leader of Hamas, Sheikh Ahmed Yassin, he made a typical speech where he claimed that Hamas needed to reestablish the balance of terror in their favor, and that they were going to rock Tel Aviv. And you heard the crowds chanting. And he went the same goal for which our leaders died. I mean, so he also actually made a veiled reference, or maybe not so veiled, to the tunnel system. He said, from below ground and above ground, you, the occupiers, will be dismissed. And of course, Israel left Gaza in 2005. But there was this reference to, below ground. And now we know there's this massive network of tunnels, which was designed to inflict enormous casualties on Israeli non-combatants.
Well, on that same interview, CBS, Mashal also says, he's the head of Hamas, he also says that, yes, it could be possible for the Hamas, for the Palestinians to live peaceably alongside the Jews, but not as occupiers. What is their view of occupation, and how should the the liberal West understand this concept of a siege or an occupation by Israel?
Well, it's very clear if you look at the Hamas covenant, its founding documents, and founding documents are critical in all these discussions, whether it's Hamas, whether it's Fatah. It's clear that any area, including going all the way back to the 1949 armistice borders, is considered occupied. So what he's really saying, and again, the covenant makes this clear, is that, sure, once there's a successful jihad to destroy the Israeli government and subjugate the Jews per the Sharia, as was the status through the end of the Ottoman period, then they could all get along swimmingly.
All right, so that sounds like you're bringing the issue of ISIS, or now the Islamic State, in Mosul, Iraq, where they just laid out the Sharia for the Christians. Are you saying there's a sort of a historical analogy here in terms of Hamas's view of Jews, Israel, and the occupation?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's very clear. Again, from their founding covenant, from innumerable statements that have been issued, since 1988 through the present. Hamas is a pure Sharia supremacist organization. Self-identifies as being, a part of the larger global Muslim Brotherhood, sort of the Palestine division, and their open worldview is that they want to reestablish a Sharia over historical Palestine and connect themselves to a larger caliphate. You can see a very good interview that was just given within the past week by Hassan Youssef, the so-called son of Hamas. And he reiterates that. He says, look, very clearly, this is what's preached on a routine basis in the mosques, that Hamas does not see itself as merely the conqueror, the reconqueror of historical Palestine, but as being part of the caliphate movement.
Interesting. If that's factual, and the Hamas and Islamic Jihad is simply integrated continually into their documents, their doctrines, the Charter, the Hadith, the Quran, is there any hope for peace between the Hamas and Israel? And how do you see that playing out over the next 30, 60, 90 days?
No, I think what you can get, and again, here we can just look at how Hamas views things. I think when Hamas is feeling is suffering from the Israeli counterattack, they may sue for a so-called hudna. And that, of course, is, again, very much in line with traditional Islamic thought, which is that, in fact, you can sue for a temporary armistice, as Muhammad did, when you are at a military disadvantage. And I think that that's the most you'll ever get out of Hamas. But then, of course, the corollary to that is that when they're feeling stronger, that whether it's an accurate perception or not, they will resume the jihad. And so therefore, I think many are coming to the conclusion, even some grudgingly, and even some who are not that sympathetic towards Israel, that if there's going to be any sort of the longer term stability, Hamas is going to have to be dismantled.
Well, that raises, and we're going to have to leave you on this note, but that raises the question. We're getting a lot of emails in relationship to our special series on the war in Gaza, Operation Protective Edge, an inside look, Destroy Hamas. We're getting a lot of emails from people that have not been engaged on this issue, and they're asking the question, hey, we don't get it. If you got this enemy shooting rockets into Israel, and the Israelis can go destroy the military capability of the enemy, why is the world telling Israel and the United States government to stop? What is that all about?
Well, I think you're getting into the immoral equivalence that has been made about this conflict for a long time. I think you're getting into the denial of the fact that Hamas has a virulent traditionalist Islamic anti-Semitism that's truly annihilationist. But again, as a corollary to that is its profound hatred of other non-Muslims. And I think there's a profound state of denial about this. Tom, I just want to end, just so people understand how this does not apply to simply the Jews. This is from a leading, many of the Hamas parliament members are also clerics. I mean, which shows you how difficult it's been for this society to separate religion from politics. Many of them are. This is a speech given on the floor, to the Palestinian Assembly by Yunus al-Astal. And he's saying, this is from April 2008, very soon, Allah willing, Rome will be conquered, just like Constantinople was, prophesied by our prophet Muhammad. Rome is the capital of the Catholics today, or the Crusader capital, which has declared its hostility to Islam and has planted the brothers of apes and pigs, this is a Quranic reference to Jews, in Palestine in order to prevent the reawakening of Islam. This capital of theirs, Rome, will be an advanced post for the Islamic conquests, and here's the key part, which will spread through Europe in its entirety, and then will turn to the two Americas and even Eastern Europe. I believe that our children or our grandchildren will inherit our jihad. This is not a localized movement, a pseudo-nationalist movement. This is a global jihadist movement.
And that was in 2008, right?
This was April 2008, April 11th, 2008.
All right. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, those words seem to be ringing, a unique ringing reality right now. Dr. Andy Bostom, thank you so very much for your time today. And we will be back with you in the future for more of your insightful analysis and just your great looks too, okay?
Thanks very much, Tom.
All right, we'll see you. Take care now, Andy. Wow, what a show today, folks. We brought you a little bit of the Hamas in the street in Miami, then two of the world's top experts on the Hamas, their doctrines, their belief system. And we've been making the point all through this series that when you have an individual that holds to a particular static belief system, the Hamas covenant, Islamic Jihad principles, when that individual integrates into their being this belief system, that individual will live a particular way. In fact, as you saw on the street in Miami. Extrapolate from there worldwide and you have Islamic Jihad. And these two individuals, Dr. Andy Bostom and Dr. Mordechai Kedar, lay out a beautiful analysis of the problems we're going to face in the future with the Hamas as a military element in Israel. Therefore, humbly, I'd like to provide an admonition, as we've been doing at every show, to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Sir, you just heard from two wonderful experts on Hamas doctrine, and they conclude that the most viable option, indeed for the free world, for Israel, and for Palestinians, is to destroy the military capability of the Hamas. The Hamas themselves present themselves as a political entity and a military entity. Prime Minister Netanyahu, please destroy the military capability of the Hamas. Let them focus on their political needs, their rebuilding and their construction of a society, a just and free society. The only way that's going to happen is if the military capability of the Hamas is completely destroyed. And we pray that you make decisions to, in fact, accomplish that worthy goal. Thank you very much, sir.